Okay, I had my mute on. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. My name is Arlene, and I am a resident of Oakland, the Diamond District, as a matter of fact. I'm a member of SDA, and we're excited about this evening. Senior and Disability Action is a community organization of seniors and people with disabilities all types of disabilities who come together to fight for transit justice, safe streets, affordable housing, health care, home care, and other issues. We just held a rally in North Oakland, August the 12th, I believe it was, to get more time to cross the street safely and won. 1 week later, we got results. And the city of Oakland has also responded to extend the time.
Thank you, Arlene, for starting us off. We're going to be your MCs for tonight. My name is Itzel Romero. I am the Systems Change Advocate here at the Center for Independent Living. It's a cross-disability advocacy and direct services organization serving Northern Alameda County for the last 50 years and is also one of the founders of the independent living movement.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We're glad to have so many candidates for the AC Transit Board of Directors and the Bart Board of Directors, along with seniors, people with disabilities, and our allies. We also have some folks at an in-person watch party at Ed Roberts campus. Stop in and say hello to everyone.
So now I want to talk about why we're here, and that's to hear where our candidates stand on issues that are important to seniors and people with disabilities. And we also want to allow our candidates to hear directly from seniors and disabled people to learn about our transit needs. Additionally, we want to give community members information they need to make an informed choice for the upcoming election this November.
We would like to remind everyone that this is seniors with and without disabilities and people with all types of disabilities of all ages. And we really ask the candidates to be inclusive. Thank you so much.
Next, we're going to talk about some of our co-sponsors for this evening, one being the Community Resources for Independent Living, the East Bay Gray Panthers, the Center for Elders Independence, Senior Services Coalition of Alameda County, Causa Justa or Just Caused, Seamless Bay Area, and Transform California. And for our group agreements, let's all remember to be respectful and kind and disagree without being disrespectful. Let's remember to share the space and making sure that one person speaks at a time and keeping our comments fairly short so that other people have the space to speak. And we're also striving to make the meeting as accessible as possible for everyone. And we recognize that some folks may have some conflicting access needs. So we ask that you use the chat sparingly because it can be distracting for some people. Information shared in the chat will be read to everyone and shared by email after the event. Additionally, there is a live captioner. So if you don't see captions and would like to, click on more or the three dots on the bottom or the side of your screen and click show subtitles. And if you don't want captions, go to more and click hide subtitles. If you have other access needs, please send a private chat to Zoom Tech Jessica or raise your hand in the chat if it's not accessible to you.
Okay, how this works. I'm going to explain how the forum will work. We need to keep the structure so that we understand the candidate's position on a variety of issues and have time to take questions from the audience as well. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for the first question. We will then ask a series of questions and each candidate will get 1 minute to respond to each. Then we will ask questions from audience members. At the end, we will share additional information about voting and how to get involved in advocacy. We are also asking all candidates, those attending and those not attending, to have completed a candidate questionnaire, and we will share the responses publicly.
Next, we'll
No.
hear from Beth about some timekeeping.
Okay, a timekeeper will hold up a sign when you have 30 seconds remaining, and when your time is up, you will hear a ding at both times. If this is not accessible to you, please let us know the way to notify you of the time. Please respect the time, finish your sentence, and stop when your time is up. How to share question. If possible, send your questions by direct chat to Zoom Tech Jessica. We'll read as many out as we can. If the chat isn't accessible to you, when you get to that portion, raise your hand and we will call on you. Please keep questions brief so that we can get to as many as possible. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves and share one thing you would do to improve AC Transit or Bart for seniors and people with disabilities.
So first up to introduce themselves, we'll call on AC Transit Ward candidates from AC Transit Ward 3, Stuart Chen and Sarah Syed.
Good evening. Did you want either of us to go first? I guess I can. We just start.
Waiting for a cue.
Ladies first. Let's go with Sarah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Syed, a transportation manager running for AC Transit Ward 3. I've lived in the Bay Area for 20 years. Like many of you, I've been a walker, a transit rider, a cyclist my entire life. In 1999, I got stranded in Marin on my way home from work when the bus never came. And I wrote a letter to the editor. I met others working on the same issues. And I went to my local transportation commission to get involved. Since then, my whole life's work has been about working with communities to improve transit, safe routes to schools, better bikeways. I joined a nonprofit. I wrote grants to launch a Safe Routes to Schools program in 10 schools. I earned 2 master's degrees from Cal in transportation engineering and city planning. And I've had the pleasure to serve the public and partner with so many of the agencies that are critical to AC Transit's success. I spent 8 years on the Berkeley Transportation Commission working on the first climate action plan. I have worked to improve community engagement by meeting with people where they are. I've got 20 years of delivering results, and I want to continue to use those qualifications to restore service, prioritize safety, and improve on-time arrivals. You ask about what would be the one thing I would do, and it is hard to narrow it down to one, but one of the things that really struck me when I was reading through the Accessibility Advisory Committee was the number of pass-ups that are occurring for our ADA riders. And I think it's really important that we work to address that. It's unacceptable that people are being passed up, and I know we can fix that problem. And so as a transit rider, I've seen the progress we've made. I also live in the Diamond, and also the many challenges in our transit network. I'm running because I was asked to run by many who believe Ward 3 deserves a trusted leader who can deliver strong oversight and results. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Democratic Party, the East Bay Times. You can take a look at my website for the other endorsements. Thank you so much.
And next we'll pass it to Stuart Chen. And just as a reminder, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and share one thing that you'd like to do to improve either AC Transit or Bart for seniors and people with disabilities.
Hi, my name is Stuart Chen. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Manila, Philippines. I have been living in this district, Ward 3 district, for well over 40 years now. I am not just bilingual. I speak Cantonese, Mandarin, Tagalog, English, and I have worked in this community for a number of years. My day job, because first I'm very happy that I'm invited to this forum, disability and senior. Number one, I am a senior. Me and my wife are in my 60s. I have a mom who's in 84. In my day job, I'm a healthcare provider. I'm a medical examiner for Department of Transportation. I serve as a qualified medical examiner for Industrial Disability Council for the state of California. So this is near to my heart. Disability evaluation, I work with disability patients day in and day out. What I promise to you is, I may not solve all the problems that you have or are concerned with, but I will bring my expertise working with disability and disability issues to the board, issues that you and I care about. And this is near and dear to my heart because of the number of patients I see on a daily basis. Experience-wise, well over 20 years of experience. I serve on this Alameda City Council. I currently serve on the City of Alameda Healthcare District that oversees the operation of the hospital and senior skilled nursing facilities. I've been endorsed by many elected people you and I know, including Assemblymember Mia Banta, Speaker of Assembly Anthony Rendon, locally Oakland's Sheng Tao, Councilmember Sheng Tao, Council President Nikki Bass, in Alameda, Jim Odie, Trish Spencer, former mayor and current council member. You can learn more about me at stuartchen.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah and Stuart. Next, we'll pass it to candidates for AC Transit Ward number 4, Murphy McCauley and Barisha Spriggs.
Apologies, I can't spotlight until folks have their video on. So Barisha Spriggs, if you want to turn your video on, we'll add you. And if candidates can turn your video on a few seconds early, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, so we can start with Murphy, and just as a reminder of the questions, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and share one thing you'd like to do to improve AC transit for seniors and people with disabilities.
Good evening, and thanks for, can everyone hear me? And thanks for having me, inviting me for this program. Again, my name is Murphy McCauley. I'm currently serving as the director representing Ward 4 for AC Transit. That includes Castro Valley, most of Hayward, most of San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Cherryland, Ashland, and Fairview, and San Lorenzo, if I didn't mention that. And I've have been asked to run and to continue my serving on the AC Transit Board. I have a very strong background in the transit industry. First off, I was born and raised in the Bay Area in a transit-dependent family. So I relied on AC Transit to get around every place I needed to go. I've worked 30 years in the public transit industry all around the country with transit agencies. I bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise in transit finance in particular, and transit operations. What I would like to see, I'm endorsed by a number of a wide array of folks and organizations. I'm endorsed by Supervisor Nate Miley, Assemblyman Bill Quirk, Mayor Barbara Halliday, City of Hayward, East Bay Times has endorsed me. The Castro Valley Democratic Club has endorsed me. The Hayward Democratic Club has endorsed me. What I would like to try to improve for seniors and for disabled is our reliability. That's an area that we really need to focus on right now with AC Transit, is to improve the reliability of the system. As a senior myself, and as someone with an elderly mother who utilizes the paratransit services, I'd like us to make sure our reliability is on point. Thank you.
Thank you, Murphy. Barisha, are you able to share out your introduction?
Hi, yes. I'm Parisha. I am I'm a proven leader for the people. I rely on AC Transit every day and do not own a car. I have lived in the Bay Area and connected with all the stakeholders here. I am a lifelong Democrat. Policy experience. I'm an elector of the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee and an executive board member of the California Democratic Party. With transportation is at a crucial time.
Did we lose her? It appears that we lost. Oh, no, here she is back. Great. Sometimes if you turn off your camera, Barisha, you might be able to connect.
Okay, for now, we're gonna move on and give Barisha a little bit of time to fix their internet. But next we'll move on to candidates for AC Transit at large, Alfred Tuwu and Joelle Young. And just as a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes to introduce yourself and share one thing that you'll do to improve AC Transit for seniors and people with disabilities. And we can start with Alfred.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Alfred Tu, and I'm running for the AC Transit at large position. I'm an architect who's worked on transit facilities and affordable housing and work every day with the ADA code to make sure our new facilities and buildings are accessible. I'm also a longtime transit advocate and an everyday bus rider. I don't own a car, and I use AC Transit and Bart to get around both locally and Transbay to San Francisco. And better connections between the Bay Area's 20+ transit systems is one of the top issues I want to work on, as well as traffic safety, improving the crosswalks and intersections so people can get to and from the buses safely. But I think the #1 issue, as many others have said, is reliability. Right now, on some days, 1 in 10 buses is canceled, and that's really not acceptable for people who are relying on transit to get where they need to go. I am trusted and experienced working with our many state and local elected officials, which is going to be critical in the next couple of years as we find the funding to get us past the fiscal cliff when the federal pandemic relief money runs out. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Democratic Party, Assembly members Buffy Wicks, Alex Lee, as well as AC Transit directors Javanka Beckles, Gene Walsh, and 3 of the Bart directors. You can learn more about my campaign at alfred2.org. Thank you.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. First, my name is Joel Young. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you this evening, and thank you for the work that you guys do in this community. I currently serve as the AC Transit at-large board member. We find ourselves at an interesting point in the history of the agency. The pandemic has had a tremendous impact on our company. We have lost a significant amount of revenue. We've lost a significant amount of ridership. We're also trying to figure out how we can operate in this new post-COVID environment. This challenge is an issue facing AC Transit. It's an issue facing public transit generally in the United States. As a result of it, we are going to have to reimagine how we provide service, the type of service that we provide, the levels of the service that we provide. But this issue and these challenges are why I am running for re-election. I think my 13 years of experience on the AC Transit Board puts me in a unique position to provide leadership on the various issues that we are going to be facing. In terms of issues that I would like to address for the senior and disabled community, certainly reliability that everyone has talked about, but in addition to that, keeping fares low and stable for our seniors and our disabled community is something that I will commit to right here and right now. It's an issue that is important for this group, for these groups, and it's important to me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both. Next, we're going to pass it to candidates for the BART board, Liz Ames and Janice Lee.
I'm welcome to go first. Liz and I are not running against each other, so I'll go ahead. So hi, everyone. My name is Janice Lee. I use she, her pronouns, and if there's something I can do or change to be more accessible, please let me know. I want to thank SDA and the many hosts for creating this space today to hear from candidates. I think that really this is an opportunity to hold us accountable, and I appreciate SDA's very long history of transit justice. I care deeply about transit, about people and our communities, and all of those things combined is why I care deeply about BART. I was a first-time candidate in 2018 for BART Board District 8, which covers about half of San Francisco, mostly the west side of the city. I was proud to win. I became the first woman to ever serve in this seat. I became the first Asian American woman to ever serve on the BART board. I'm queer. I'm an immigrant from Hong Kong. I live in the inner Richmond with my partner and my dog. And my entire professional life has been in nonprofit advocacy. I currently work for Chinese for Affirmative Action. I'm running to serve another term, and due to the strength of my campaign and my service thus far, I'm proud to be running unopposed. In my 4 years on the board, I've joined a voting bloc with my colleagues like Latifah Simon, Rebecca Salzman, Bevan Dufty, all of whom I'm proud to be endorsed by, to become the deciding vote on a variety of new programs. So I'll just name a few and there. So first, we've created multiple programs to add civilian unarmed safety presence through ambassadors, a team of social workers, bathroom attendants, and elevator attendants to make our spaces more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Second, we created BART's first ever low-income fare program. Third, BART launched our Not One More Girl initiative to address gender-based harassment on BART, which led to SB 1161, a bill that Governor Newsom fortunately just signed to expand these initiatives across the state. And lastly, we were able to make it through the pandemic to become one of the first transit agencies to bring back service to nearly 100% pre-pandemic levels. And I'm proud that we did that while avoiding layoffs and making sure we treat our workers right. Just a couple months ago, we actually approved a new CBA to increase salaries to all of our unions. You can learn more about me at justforbart.com. I've received just about every endorsement I can receive. So thank you so much for having me here.
All right, thank you. I'm Liz Ames, your BART director for District 6. I cover South Hayward to Fremont and Southern Alameda County. I'm a licensed civil engineer for almost 30 years. I focused on a lot of transportation projects, worked on design of a pedestrian bridge and tunnel, pedestrian bike only facilities. I've worked on budgeting, planning, design, and construction of projects. So I'm very concerned about infrastructure. My main priorities for Bart is public safety. And I did do an opinion piece to reach out to the community about the need for fare gates. And so the community spoke out and said they would like to have fare gates, and the Bart board of directors, including Janice, agreed that we should put in the fare gates. And this is to control the fare evasion. We could save maybe 25 million a year, and that could fund the fare gate program. And that's actually happening this year. But also in relation to the disability and the senior community, I'm very focused on pedestrian and bike access. The Bart board approved the east opening of the Union City station that received an audit, and it was very dangerous to walk around the station. And now we're going to be opening up east and west, and that'll be a beautiful pedestrian spine for the community. The city of Fremont also did a Safe Routes to School program. Safe Routes to Bart program, and that provided additional access. So I've actually been endorsed by the Bike East Bay advocacy director, his former advocacy director, Dave Campbell, and the East Bay Times and Mercury News. And so I look forward to working with you and improving access for everyone from 8 to 80. Thank you.
Thank you, Janice and Liz. We're going to move on to our question portion for our time today. So we're going to have all of our candidates come and be pinned on your screen. And once everyone's here, we'll go ahead and start the question portion.
I just wanted to take a second to introduce myself as the timekeeper. I probably should have done it earlier. In this portion, you guys are all going to have 1 minute to answer a question, and I will be letting you know both with a sign and a beep when 30 seconds are up.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Okay, let's start with the questions. Second. First question is, how would you improve paratransit and make it more affordable and reliable to low-income people with disability and seniors?
And let's start with Janice.
Thank you for that question. I think this is a little bit beyond just my role on the Bart board, but I am a very huge proponent of passing Prop L in San Francisco, which is actually increasing. This is to continue the San Francisco sales tax for transportation. It's one of the very unique ways that paratransit in San Francisco gets funded. And they've actually increased, I think it's going to be 13% of the expenditures will actually be spent on paratransit. I think that's it. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's an increase from 11%. And so I think it's a huge deal to keep passing those measures. I think, it's 30 seconds left. I think where Bart comes in, I think that the more accessible and the more convenient and the more reliable our service is, I think that'll matter hugely for people with disabilities. I know that Bart does not have a particularly great history of that. So I'll just sort of end there and say, I'm here and I'm always looking for ways that we can improve our service.
Thank you, Janice. Let's pass it to Joelle.
Thank you. So paratransit has lost a significant amount of ridership post-COVID. Part of the issue is with respect to reliability of the service. There's a bus operator shortage here in California, and quite frankly, across the nation, which makes it difficult to attract and retain bus drivers to provide the paratransit service. So one of the issues with respect to this that I am focused in on is the recruitment and recruitment of paratransit bus drivers. And in order to do that, I believe we are going to have to offer more in terms of compensation for those drivers. And I am committed to making that happen in order to ensure that we have enough drivers to provide the service. And hopefully when we are able to recruit the drivers, we will see reliability improved, and we'll also see the capacity constraints, which we're seeing from the time periods of 7 to 9 a.m. And then in the early evenings, hopefully we'll see those capacity constraints alleviated as well.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Stuart.
Sorry, good question. It would be irresponsible for me to say, I promise free fare or low fare, but that's one thing I would like to do when I get elected to the board, is to sit down with staff management to find out if it's even feasible. The good thing is AC Transit fare bucks revenue is a small portion of our total budget. So either we lose a little bit of that small portion and still able to maintain the efficiency in the services that we currently provide to our residents. So yes, I cannot promise free fare, but I am very supportive of free fare and low fare, especially to disability residents and the very low income residents in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Let's pass it to Murphy.
Just as my colleague Joel mentioned, it is very likely that our paratransit costs are going to increase. We're in the process, I guess, very shortly going out for paratransit providers, RFP for paratransit providers, and it's very likely to, as Joel mentioned, to attract drivers, we will need to probably increase our costs for paratransit. So we're going to need to be creative and look at ways of how we cannot pass that cost on to the users. And one might be that we need to try to identify some subsidy funds that can be applied to offset the increased costs that we're going to probably incur under the paratransit program. So that's what I would like to work towards, is to see if there's some funding sources that we can identify that can apply towards keeping the fares low or reduced for seniors and disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Murphy, and we can pass it to Sarah.
Thank you. We have a long way to go to improve experiences on paratransit so people can be in the world, get to doctor's appointments, see our friends. I think that interagency coordination between operators is important. Just like, you know, our 27 transit agencies need to improve the experience for transit riders, we need to do the same on paratransit. You know, I think there's various new technologies that I'm happy to take a look at. And there's also a myth that employees are independent contractors and that those companies operating those have no responsibility for their health and pension. So one idea I would like to look at is community-owned and operated systems. I have some experience with this in the Central Valley with a program that was funded by the state, and it supports you know, those informal networks that already work. When you can get a ride from somebody, it's all often preferred and going to be a better experience. Let's ensure they can get a small stipend. You know, we pay about $63 for every paratransit ride, and I think we can deliver a better experience if we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's pass it to Liz.
Great ideas. So I've seen a lot of, well, not a lot of paratransit service in my community, but what I had noticed is that, you know, I'd like to see, I saw like a paratransit stop at a bank. The person was able to do their banking and come out, do their business, and then get back onto the bus. And I thought, you know, that's the kind of service that those folks really need. They don't want to be in this ride along where it's going to take maybe an hour to get to the store. and then another hour back if they pick up other passengers. So I really do like Sarah's idea of trying to come up with a way to get it more convenient and improve the rider experience. I would support lower fares. Maybe we can be creative, as the panelists have said. I think that's the problem with the ridership. It's not very convenient. It takes too long, and they just want to get to A to B quickly. So I'm hopeful that we can do something creative like this, do some community-based program. Thank you.
And finally, for this question, we'll pass it to Alfred.
Thank you, everyone. So because the availability of paratransit is based on the regular transit schedules and lines, one of the biggest issues is filling in those gaps, especially on weekend, late nights, especially in our suburban areas, so that people don't feel stranded at home during certain times of the week. And as others have mentioned before, finding the money to fully fund paratransit to attract more bus operators is going to be a big challenge. And I think that this is something, since that transit agencies across the state are dealing with, state legislation, a budget ask to the governor will be key in making sure we have a movement that can go in and get this funding. Thank you.
Thank you all for answering that question. Our next question is going to be, will you advocate that all mask requirements on public transit be reinstated immediately to protect people against COVID and other illnesses? Or what criteria will you use to reinstate mask requirements? And would you work to institute a mask requirement and improve ventilation for COVID safety on paratransit? Please make sure to provide a yes or no for each part of this question. And we'll start with Alfred.
Thank you. So yes, we need to bring back the mask requirement because not everyone's been able to get the new booster yet. For instance, I tried to schedule one a few weeks ago and I'm not able to get one until later this week. So it's way too early to have dropped those requirements. And I agree that they should also be in place on paratransit. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. Let's pass it to Sarah.
Thank you. I believe that there should be a mask mandate in place on paratransit, absolutely, and also improve ventilation. I do think that the current data shows that case levels have declined significantly, but they also show that there's likely more virus in the air than case levels indicate. Some government officials frame COVID as a matter of personal responsibility. I disagree with that framing. However, I do think we need our public health agencies to step up and lead. So at this time, I would not support a mandatory mask mandate. I want to continue to have masks available for free and to have hand sanitizer available and to ensure we are setting as many systems in place. But our bus drivers have been getting assaulted for trying to enforce mask mandates, and that's a real issue. So thank you for the question.
Let's pass it to Stuart.
Without a doubt, yes, I would bring back mask mandate. Well, in accordance with the county health and CDC. I have a clinic here in Oakland, Chinatown, where almost 95% of the residents and business owners still carry and wear masks. We're not out of pandemic. We're not. And it's just going to get worse during the winter season as flu comes in and mix in with the COVID virus. I would strongly encourage that we still put the mandate back to at least our drivers, minimum. Our drivers are 5 times more likely to catch COVID than the average general public. So bringing back the mandate to wear masks is, to me, an important protocol, safety protocol that we can do for our public and for employees. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Let's pass it to Liz.
Thank you. I was just pulling up what we did at the park meeting recently about the mask mandate, and we have the following conditions. We would state this if the local health officer reinstates indoor masking in any of the 5 counties. The California Department of Public Health reinstates an indoor mask mandate, we would do that. So again, it's kind of along the lines of what others are saying. If it's mandated by CDC, then we would do this. I do believe, though, the exception on paratransit because of the elderly and the disabled, I would like to see the mask mandate on that service. I think that's warranted. And of course, the flu season's coming up this and in the fall. And so we will potentially have an outbreak. So I am a proponent of doing that on paratransit to have the mandate. And ventilation, yes. I mean, we improved the ventilation on Bart. I was a big proponent on that. And I definitely think ventilation is key. They do this a lot in the Asian communities because they've had multiple pandemics. So we need to improve all of the ventilation on the buses, including paratransit. Thank you.
Let's pass it to Murphy.
Yes, thanks. I'm inclined to support the mask mandate for paratransit. I think that's a very vulnerable group and would make sense to make that mandatory for paratransit. I'm not in favor of a mask mandate under the current environment on fixed route. Without the support of the CDC and the county health officials to support us, and again, I have the same concern with respect to our driver safety and then the enforceability of the mandate. I support improving ventilation. I think that's a smart way to help this situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Murphy. Let's pass it to Joelle.
Yes, I also believe that we should continue to look at whether or not a mask mandate is appropriate on paratransit with respect to fixed route service. I think we should follow the guidance of our local health officials with respect to their recommendation as to whether or not we should have mask mandates with respect to ventilation on buses. We have looked at that issue, we have studied that issue, and we will continue to improve or attempt to improve the ventilation on the buses.
Thank you. And we'll pass it to Janice.
Yeah, thank you. So I know that the decisions in the last week have been really disappointing. I just want to acknowledge that now that both AC Transit and Bart no longer have the mask mandate. And I recognize, I think it was 10 of 11 Bart board directors, including myself, voted a couple weeks ago to give the GM authority based on a set of criteria to whether he would want to continue that mandate. I do really want to thank SDA members and disability advocates who have continuously called in and given public comment. I agree strongly with the candidate who mentioned earlier the need for our health departments to step up. It should not, and it ultimately cannot be on transit departments to act as health departments. If I thought that a mask mandate would actually lead to compliance, I would have voted to continue extending it in a heartbeat. In terms of criteria, Rebecca Salzman and I joined a meeting with some of the folks on this Zoom call to discuss, and I acknowledge at that time there wasn't consensus on what the criteria could be. I think there's definitely room for improvement with our current criteria. I would like to maybe continue those conversations and hear from people with disabilities and immunocompromised individuals and seniors about what that could be. And lastly, I strongly agree that mask mandate should be on paratransit, and Bart Board has sort of set the standard by using MERV 16 filters on our train cars.
Thank you, Janice. Let's pass it to Barisha.
Yes, I agree with having the mask mandate and also improving the ventilation for transit. Because I was reading today that even healthcare district was saying there's new variants out, and people who do not have boosters can still die from that. They can still die from COVID if they do not have the boosters. And a lot of the handicapped and seniors, a lot of them are low income, and I know in low income communities, a lot of times some people, the resources are not readily available to get the booster. And so I do support both of those mandates for both AC Transit and paratransit.
Thank you all. We're going to move on to our next question, which is many people with disabilities and seniors struggle to find their way on public transit. How will you ensure accessible wayfinding on AC Transit or BART for blind and low vision people and other disabled people regarding bus stops and station entrances and exits? What will you do to ensure people know when the bus is coming without a smartphone? And we'll start with Stuart.
So when we talk about vision impaired riders, you can have robots, you can have all the technological advanced tools that you can provide them, but it's still not a replacement for human touch. I would like to, if it's feasible and if I can talk to the management, propose an idea where we collaborate with regional and city, municipality, and counties to partner, to include our ambassadors currently on AC Transit with the many municipalities, maybe even community-based organizations who are volunteering to help our vision impaired riders onto the bus. That will be the safest way to help them, guide them onto the bus than any advanced technology. Maybe a call button on the bus stop. And of course, granted, it will take some time for a volunteer to come and assist them onto the bus, but a call button where it goes to a central call center and can be dispatched to either San Leandro, Oakland, wherever that person is waiting to have an ambassador come help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Let's pass it to Janice.
Yeah, this is actually such a timely issue. So at our most recent BART board meeting, we actually just had an item about our wayfinding standards and are taking in feedback now about our signage. This is part of a larger MTC-led process. And this is particularly for transit connections. So like if you're going from AC Transit or from like at El Cerrito del Norte, there's like every single kind of transit that connects there, Westcott, et cetera. So our current draft plan for those bus bays include talking tactile maps that will be at a much lower level. I think that this is a good new standard given what's out there today, but I think that, you know, I would love to help set up perhaps some sort of meeting between BART planners and SDA and others about making sure that these really are the standards, because from what I've seen, transit agencies have just historically not really made their wayfinding really accessible. So there's always more out there. I think it just comes down to engagement and for the BART board to make those investments and resources to make it happen.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Murphy.
Well, I think, you know, this is one of these situations where it's going to take some low tech and high tech and a lot of coordination. I was also, I've been impressed by what I've been hearing about BART and what they're doing with wayfinding and likewise MTC and their efforts with respect to regional signage program. And I think that we need to work collaboratively with those other agencies as well as with the cities to come up with ways that that everyone can a uniform way that everyone is communicating with that population. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Joelle.
So I'd like to concur with the comments from Janice and Murphy. We are AC Transit is currently evaluating and participating in MTC's regional wayfinding project and study that they are doing. And I believe we will incorporate a lot of the recommendations that come out of that project. We're also in the process of coming up with standards with respect to bus stops. I think it's going to be incredibly important for the disability community, the seniors community to provide their feedback so that we can incorporate that information into the decisions that we make. And I think it's going to be incredibly important that you guys, quite frankly, look at what we're doing, provide your advice and counsel, and we as board members, I'm sure will take that into consideration.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Alfred.
Thank you. So I would say the two biggest things are standardization and simplicity. We have 20 plus transit agencies, and we've invented 20 plus different wheels for signage, for wayfinding. And as others have mentioned, we really need a regional standard so that once you understand one, you understand it all. But that extends beyond just the signage. It's also about fair policy so that people understand how much it will cost for them to ride transit without having to be a transit expert. And for that reason, I also support policies for fair integration as well as free transfers between systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Elizabeth.
Okay, yeah, we just had a great meeting on wayfinding at Bart. So my understanding, it's going to be vastly improved. We're going to have bays, bus bays, like say A through E, and then it'll be numbered 1 through 5. So you'll know where your bus is. I'd say it's A5, and that's going to be your bus potentially. So that'll be simplified through this wayfinding program. But also for the low tech, my understanding is the Lighthouse for the Blind and Visually Impaired, this is out of San Francisco, they had a pamphlet that documents in Braille, like where the buses are. There's a map in there, and you don't want a map at the stations where they're touching the map, and you don't want to have anybody touching this map. It could be dirty, and sorry, like an interpretive sign, you don't want to touch that. So they have maps, and those need to be updated. And so I've asked the staff to look into this and publish those through this organization. We would pay for these pamphlets. That would be the low tech way to locate the bus for the visually impaired. So thank you.
And let's pass it to Sarah.
Thank you. We need to modernize access for blind and low vision people, for seniors and other disabled people using our bus stops and stations. I remember when I first got involved, and there weren't even schedules at so many of our bus stops, and Steve Geller would, print out schedules and laminate them and tape them to the bus stop poles, right? Just to problem solve and help people. The complexity of navigating the current system is unacceptable. We need to not have a piecemeal approach. I support regional wayfinding efforts in the Transformation Action Plan. At AC Transit today, there's a project to install Braille and raised print plates, but we only have funding for about 10% of AC Transit stops. So, I'll work to get more funding for that project. Ensure it's what we do have is prioritized at locations with facilities geared to the visually impaired. We need to expand partnerships. We've got real-time arrival information, but let's be sure it's audible. Let's look at the talking tactile maps. And most importantly, let's work with the people who are closest to the problems, because I still have a lot of learning to do on this and where solutions are. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Let's pass it to Barisha.
Only in agreement with the other individuals who, and so I do want to have that regional wayfinding that MTC has approved. We also need audible schedules at each stop. So, in San Francisco, they have the digital and audio, but we need Braille there. We need a lot of improvement, and we need funding for that. Of course, I'm interested in either having a ballot measure or legislative bill to provide funding for.
Are you able to finish your time, Barisha? Okay, we're going to move on to the next question, and also bring on Diane Shaw, who is running for AC Transit Ward 5. And our,
Okay. We had
and
Chris- Go ahead.
sorry, our next question will be, transit has gotten expensive, especially for people on a fixed income. Free public transit is now available in several cities across the country. Do you support free public transit? If so, what will you do to encourage its adoption in the Bay Area? For this question, please make sure to provide a yes or no on free public transit. And we'll start with Diane.
Thank you. I wasn't actually expecting to speak, but thanks, I will do that. Yeah, I support looking at how we can make it affordable for seniors and those with disabilities to ride the service and the people that need it the most. What we need to do is look at options that include some private, possibly funding where people sponsor those types of things. Because right now with the funding, I wasn't prepared, sorry, with the funding that we have, we wouldn't be able to do free fares. But I would love to be able to find a way to make it cheaper for everybody and to be more affordable. So yes, I do support moving forward with more affordable fares for the underprivileged and low income and seniors.
Thank you, Diane. Let's pass it to Sarah.
Sure. I'm going to answer yes, but. So yes, I support free fares, but not within the context of our current AC Transit resources. And my highest priority, if we had more resources, would be improving our service first. I think that's a higher priority because our service is marginal in our densest areas and awful in other areas. And we can't expect people to take our service if we're not reliable. So just this week in Washington, D.C., the council there passed an item to look at paying $100 a month to each resident, crediting that on to their Clipper equivalent. And if you don't use it, you won't get replenished. I think, there's interesting models out there, and I think I want to work with you all on exploring those and looking at what are the characteristics where fare-free transit is being successful, right? How can we ensure we're not increasing demand so much that we don't have enough service out there to meet it and we get back to overcrowded buses? We need to deal with our operator crisis to be able to increase service as well. Thank you.
And let's pass it to Janice.
Thank you so much for this question. Absolutely, I support it. No questions asked. There's no but. If I could wave a wand right now, I have answered this multiple times. It would be absolutely to make BART free and make transit free in California. The question is always, how do we get there? I think it's amazing what the mayor of Boston, Michelle Wu, has done. She campaigned on fare-free free transit for MBTA. And on her first day as mayor, she literally signed an order to use federal funds to make 3 bus lines that serve low-income communities of color free. We can do this. I think it's all coming down to how we fund it. I think for BART, my path there has always been, how can we make a real low-income fare program? We did it, Clipper Start is only 20%, and you have to be 200% federal poverty line, which means that the eligibility and the discount isn't there yet. I think if BART can get to where Muni is with the free Muni programs, I think that would be a huge start. I have fought so hard for state and federal funding to get us through this pandemic. I will continue fighting for that. I've continued to advocate for getting more funding for fare programs as part of our state and federal legislative agenda. So I'm there, I'm with you, and let's make it happen.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Joel.
So free fares is something that we certainly should strive towards, assuming we can find a funding source permanent funding source for that endeavor. If we don't have a permanent funding source and we just wanted to implement free fares, then we'd see a significant reduction in our service because we'd have to cut service to offset the loss in revenue, fare box revenue that we have. So once we have a dedicated funding source for free fares, then I think it's something that could be implemented.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Murphy.
Yes, I want to echo what Joel specified, and that is a permanent funding source. I don't think it does us any good to do a 1 year or 2 year program and not be able to continue it on. And so I would support it if we were able to identify funding source, whether it's public or private or a combination thereof. It means obviously changing our business model and some regulations. Currently, in the state of California, the transit agencies are required to hit a certain fare box recovery ratio under the TDA program. So I think we'd have to address that as well, but that's all doable. But I would support it if we had the funding to be able to do it.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Stuart.
I would definitely support a free fare, but like some of the candidates have said, it has to be a sustainable funding source. We can continue to strive to look for free fare funding source either from state or federal government. But while we're doing that, we could provide some sort of a free fare at the moment. I think it's in our budget to be able to do that, setting the criteria a little lower or a little higher, where maybe if the low income, we don't have enough money to fund free fare for low income, can we go one step lower to the very low income? Or maybe just to the seniors or disabled individuals who are in the very low income bracket. Or single mom who has no job but needs to get to the doctor's office and to take their kids to school. Setting the criteria where we can at least support a small segment, and as the funding comes in, then we can expand that to include the low income or moderate to low income in increments. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Alfred.
Thank you. So as others have said, I support free fares as soon as we can find the funding. And I have to say, we are almost 90% of the way there, because fares are for AC Transit not that large of the budget. So we just need to work with the state government, get some more money, and we could get there. In the meantime, though, what we should absolutely do is get free transfers. When I ride a bus in San Francisco, I pay one fare, I can ride multiple buses if it takes a transfer to get to where I need to go. AC Transit is one of the last agencies that has not provided free transfers yet, and we need to get on board with the rest of the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Barisha.
Yes, 100% support free fares. I've mentioned this from the beginning of this process, that I wanted free fares for everyone, but especially seniors and people with disabilities. And I've already been working with elected officials at the state level, at the local level, in terms of policy, in terms of getting things done. I'm the catalyst for tens of millions of dollars coming to the board for corridor improvement projects that made it
Thank you. Let's pass it to Liz.
Okay, this is a great question. So I would love to see free fares for the community college students and just, K1 through K12. I think that our burgeoning workforce, they're going to college, they need to get some assistance to get to school using transit. I would support a pilot like that. I think there's a lot of needs out there. We need to get transit more reliable in order for our transit ridership to grow. And that's also an equal challenge, because I see buses running empty. I don't even think it's really related to the fares. I think it's related to convenience, and how to get people riding transit is a crisis. We need to get this. So I would say I would do a pilot for the students and community college and college students right now. I tried to get this for Chabot College and Ohlone College and Cal State East Bay. They were not included in this pilot that MTC funded, and I'm pushing to get this funded, even though we were not shortlisted because we did not have a transit program. So I hope we can get free transit for those folks. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our next question will be, how will you strengthen and improve community outreach and involvement regarding service planning and implementation, route redesign, and station planning, and ensure that input from transit advisory boards is acted on? Let's start with Sarah.
Thanks. So much of our public participation puts the burden on participating on those with the least means to do so. I think it's really important that we meet riders where we are. I've been part of projects where you go out to the busiest stops and you do intercept surveys on board the bus, right? You find ways to make it convenient for people to participate. You provide language access. You hire organizations who are trusted by bus riders and other marginalized community members to actually conduct that outreach. Because many marginalized communities have given up hope that speaking up and getting involved and participating can make a difference. So it's really important that if we are going to work at rebuilding trust, that we compensate people who are trusted by those community members and work with them in our planning, our route design, our station planning, and our service network redesign. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Stuart.
Thank you for that question. Community outreach is something that I've done many, many times in my career. Ward 3 has two of the biggest concentration of Asian Americans in the Bay Area, Little Saigon and Chinatown District. And a lot of our immigrant population take the bus. And that's the reality. They can't afford the maintenance in the car, and they can't afford the gasoline. They take the bus. Reaching out to them is the key. I want to ask the Bart board and the AC board, how many Asian American actually participate in their board meetings? Hardly any. We need to reach not just the underserved, but the immigrant population who do not understand how to participate. Reach out to them, find out what their needs are. And that's where I come in. I am multilingual. I came from immigrant community where I can relate to their needs. So reaching out to them is number one. And I would like to set up some sort of a subcommittee where we can reach out to the underserved immigrant population and to explain to them the process of getting their voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Barisha. Barisha, are you able to go? Okay, let's pass it to Janice.
Yeah, thank you. So my entire life's work has been doing community organizing work. So it's a lot about meeting people where they're at and being part of the community. I think it's like making our work as accessible as possible. When I started on the Bart board, I used to do live agenda reviews. I did that for about the first 2 years. I just streamed live on Twitter and went item by item, just talking through each item. Because a lot of people don't even know that both AC Transit and Bart boards are actually directly voter elected because it's so rare. As it relates to accessibility issues, some examples of things I've done is actually did site visits at oh my gosh, at Richmond Station, where I still don't agree with that Fairgate pilot design, but I went there with the Bart Accessibility Task Force. And I think those are great examples of actually being on site and experiencing the same things together and hearing directly from people with disabilities. This idea of how we can make advisory boards more meaningful, I think that's a much bigger question. I don't think that Bart advisory committees are meaningful in that way. So I would love to find a way to ensure that the board is hearing more directly from advisory committees.
Thank you. Let's pass it to Murphy.
Yes, well, I think that first off, this is something I'm really advocating for, particularly as it relates to the study work that we'll be undertaking to reimagine our transit network. I think we need to cast as wide a net as possible. We need to be creative using technology as well as old school techniques as well. I think we need to be flexible and nimble, and has groups and or individuals come forward, that we tap into those resources as well to make sure that their voices are heard. I think that we also need to make sure that we tap into the knowledge and expertise of our employees, particularly bus drivers, to make sure that they have adequate input into what's being provided, or at least being proposed. So that's my thoughts on how we can improve. We just have to be more flexible and open to any and all opportunities.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Joel.
So we are in the process of, AC Transit is in the process of doing a network redesign, which I believe should be rolled out in the year 2024. As part of that redesign, the board and staff believe that it's important for us to do customer surveys in order to get a sense of what the new ridership patterns are for people who are using our service. So I think that's going to be the best way for community input and input from our riders to have a say on how the service is going to look like, how much service there will be. So I would strongly encourage that people in our community hopefully participate in those surveys.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Liz.
Okay, well, it's really hard to get the community involved. I see a lot of meetings that we have and the community is not participating. I did witness something in Fremont. They had like this block party, had food trucks, and people showed up, and there was a kiosk there to get feedback on whether we should have housing in this community, in this neighborhood. And I think that might be a good way to reach out to the community on similar issues, which would be transportation, to get people out to talk about route redesign. I'm a big proponent of bus on shoulder, regional bus on shoulder, bus only lanes. I've been stuck in the bus for almost 30 years with traffic, and I can see why people don't take the bus, because you're in the same, you're stuck with all of the cars. So the route redesign is really important, and also the type of design, you know, like bus on shoulder, like I'm explaining, is something that we need to start talking about. And then trying to create class 1 pedestrian bike only connections to the transit stations, because people need multimodal access. They need to walk, bike. So I think we need to do a huge outreach, community outreach, you know, vision for each city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll pass it to Alfred.
Thank you. So while riding transit, I have sometimes encountered transit staff conducting surveys. And I've also been to workshops often in the evening, which have an opportunity to go more in depth, where it's not just the survey you fill out, but there's an opportunity to have a one-on-one conversation. And I think it would be critical to bring those one-on-one conversations to the people who are actually riding transit as well, so that it's not just a form that people check off, but there's an actual chance for people to have a conversation and give feedback on the trip they're taking that day. And then, of course, it's also important to reach out to people who might be taking transit but aren't currently taking transit. And that's where I think organizations like yours would come in really helpful, to be continuing to work with and talk with to find out who is transit not working for that we could make work for. And finally, I think it's important to have on transit boards people like myself who rely on transit to get around every day and are seeing all the little things in our daily commutes, in our trips to shopping and seeing friends. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question is going to be for our Bart candidates only, so Elizabeth and Janice. So Bart elevators are often out of service, and with only one elevator per station, an outage leaves disabled people stranded. What will you do about this?
I can go first. All comes down to funding. So I've been fighting really hard. I even, when I was in DC back in December, I met with Speaker Pelosi's chief of staff to really push for federal funds. especially to build a redundant elevator at Embarcadero, so we don't have that problem. I certainly think elevator reliability has been improved, many thanks to our elevator attendants to make sure that they're safe and welcoming places for everyone, particularly seniors and people with disabilities. And lastly, I was just before the SFCTA board to successfully get funding to do design for elevators at 16th Mission and Glen Park. And we also got funding to replace and upgrade a bunch of the downtown elevators at the San Francisco station. So I'm not even just like talking about it. I'm going to our elected officials and going to San Francisco supervisors to get that money, because goodness knows we need it.
Thank you, Janice. Yeah, I mean, so right now we're doing like really the bare minimum. We're notifying the passengers like where the elevators are out, so people at least have a heads up before they get on the train that there's a problem. But there is an accessibility funding gap. I mean, we have infrastructure deficits, and I think it's like 300 million for accessibility improvements. It's that big. And that probably includes new elevators. It's not described exactly what that 300 million is, but I think that if we focused on those priority stations that really have a lot of traffic, I would support additional elevators, in the San Francisco area. And, it's just not really practical to ask for multiple elevators in all stations at this point when we've got reliability issues. But I would support it, additional elevators where, there's a lot of traffic, and we can't have a broken elevator, no elevator, at these major stations. So unfortunately, right now, the solution is just notifying the passengers, and I hope we can do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is for Stuart. AC Transit has moved bus stops further apart, and many seniors and disabled people cannot go the extra distance to get to the bus. Plus, many bus stops do not have seating. What will you do to bring bus stops back, especially in East Oakland, and the elimination of stops and add bus stop shelters and seating?
It's not just about the funding, but also the ability to hire and retain bus drivers. There is a national shortage of bus drivers. First, to be able to address the issue that we're facing is to increase the ability of our bus driver to work at full capacity. I would propose some sort of a stipend program or a program where we can help increase bus drivers training school and even help pay for their commercial license training and examination. If we can increase the healthy bus drivers that we currently have and expand on that, then maybe we can increase more bus lines and to bring the bus stops closer to each other so that our seniors and our disability riders will not have to walk that extra mile or extra 200 steps to the next bus stop. So it all comes down to the funding and to be able to retain more bus drivers, healthy bus drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. This next question is for Sarah. How will you expand bus service in East Oakland and other areas with many low-income seniors and disabled people?
Sure, thank you. East Oakland has been overplanned and underfunded. There's a mobility justice action plan for East Oakland, and I will work to partner with the city of Oakland to ensure that it is prioritized. Some of those projects I've been hearing from advocates have been deprioritized over improvements in downtown. And this is continuing the long history of disinvestment from East Oakland. I also want to partner with the city to go after some of the new neighborhood access and equity grants that are part of the climate bill. These are a great opportunity to implement complete streets, to improve our sidewalks and the routes to our bus stops, to improve the seating and lighting. And I will fight for funding for East Oakland. I will bring transit riders along with me, and I hope you all can join me too, so we can show up and advocate to change these structural problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll pass the same question to Murphy.
And this is just for East Oakland?
Correct.
Okay, well, I don't cover East Oakland, but I do have a mom that lives in East Oakland, so who is 100 years old and utilizes paratransit service. So in that regard, I'd like to make sure that that we have a paratransit system that works. I think that I'd like to see improvements in the scheduling and how trips are planned and scheduled. I'd like to see a more an easier way for users of the paratransit to pay the fares as opposed to using the tickets. I don't see why we can't link the Clipper or some form thereof to make it easier for people to pay their fares on the paratransit system. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you. The next part of our questions are going to be audience questions. And this first question will be for Joel. How would you improve messaging in transit station or buses about the importance of masking and risks of long COVID?
How will I improve that as a, I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
Yes. How would you improve messaging in transit stations or on buses about the importance of masking and risks of long COVID?
I mean, I think the way that we can improve it is simply providing more information on our buses. I mean, we have advertising space on our buses where those messages can be placed, and we'd be happy to provide that space for getting that additional message out. I will say, unfortunately, I have a 6:30 cutoff. My mother just had knee replacement surgery, so I'm taking care of her, and I have to head over to her house. So unfortunately, this is probably going to be my last question.
Thank you for your time today, Joel. Our next question is going to be for Elizabeth and Janice. And this is from an audience. You said we wouldn't want tactile maps posted at BART stations because people's hands might get dirty, but many people in the blind and low vision communities have called for tactile maps to be put in. And you could regularly wipe down the maps like you do with poles and put hand sanitizer nearby. Would you help make that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I was very supportive of talking tactile maps. So I'm not sure if that was something that Liz had said. We have great cleaning staff, and I think that would be a pretty simple conversation with our labor partners and, our system service workers to ensure that, those tactile maps got regular cleaning.
Thank you for that question, because I did talk to staff, ironically, about this very issue before the meeting. So the staff is saying that it's difficult to clean, and it's, they could wipe it down frequently, yes. But the other option would be to have a more robust booklet that this organization has provided in the past, that really you can have a pamphlet and then you can locate the buses on a map with this tactile booklet, as opposed to this kiosk idea. I mean, I'm open to trying it. I just was hearing that it was discussed, and they thought it wouldn't be as effective.
Thank you. This next question is for Alfred. One candidate used the term post-COVID, but thousands of people are still dying each week, and disabled people and seniors are disproportionately impacted by this ongoing pandemic. Do you think we are post-COVID, and what does that mean for disabled people who are still very much at risk of illness and death?
So we are definitely not post-COVID yet. And until we are, we should continue to maintain protections. And I feel that transit should be operating at a slightly higher standard for health protections, because unlike a regular business where you can choose, do I go to grocery store A or grocery store B? For transit, there's only one option. And so for that reason, to protect both our riders, to protect the workers, and to protect the public as a large, transit should continue providing the mask mandates. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will be for Barisha. Given transit will be waiting on public health departments to bring back the mask mandate, how do you plan to improve messaging in transit stations and buses about the importance of masking and risks of long COVID?
I'd like to, if possible, I'd like to have a lot of different advertisements inside the bus, at the bus stops about the effects. Possibly getting some, like, you know how on Bart it has some, like, you know, I would like to get like a TV like situated on the bus where there are like videos on information instead of just having just a piece of paper with a sign. I'd like actual an actual TV on each bus to actually have videos and advertisements for public service announcements to really get people's attention. I think that would be worth our time in a different way to grab people's attention about information that we need taken out.
Thank you. This next question is for Murphy. There seems to be a tendency to see disabled and senior riders as mainly paratransit users. Many speakers support masking on paratransit. Do candidates understand that most disabled/senior riders regularly ride BART and AC Transit? Is it easier politically to support masking on paratransit only?
Is it easier to support masking on paratransit? Is that the question?
Correct.
I don't know if I would use the phrase easier. I just think that the folks that typically use paratransit clearly are the more vulnerable of the group. You get a cross section of folks that ride the fixed route systems, and that given that without the support of the health officials, I think it's difficult to make a requirement that everyone on the bus. I think we ought to advise people that it's advisable that they mask when in close contact with folks. And I think that we can do that through a number of ways, either through some types of PSAs, some text message alerts, that we can inform people that we strongly encourage them to wear a mask when in a crowded situations. But I just think it's difficult to enforce on the bus system, on the fixed route bus system, without the support of the health officials.
And I'll pass the same question to Sarah.
Sure, thank you. You know, in terms of easier, I think there's more consensus to maintain masking on paratransit because paratransit is serving those who have the largest challenges using our fixed route system. And so I do think that it's really important that we look at how to support the seniors and people with disabilities who are riding fixed route transit and make it possible for them to still ride. So whether it's making available, you know, N95 mask for those users, N95s work, you know, you can have up to 25 hours of exposure. I think that is accurate, and but they're really expensive, and we need to make them accessible and available for people who need them so we can support freedom, access to transit, you know, frequent transit. It is freedom to live our lives and to exist in public spaces. And I think we should, thank you.
Thank you all, everyone. We're gonna start closing up our session today, and we'll share a little bit of information about voting as well as some upcoming events.
Apologies. Quick tech break.
Okay.
Okay, back to you, Itza.
Okay. Once again, thank you to our candidates. And we just want to share a reminder that Election Day is Tuesday, November 8th. If you are a San Francisco resident, you can mail your ballot or drop it off at a marked official drop box or vote early at City Hall. You can also use accessible voting equipment or the accessible vote by mail system. If you have any questions about your voter registration, accessibility, or other voting questions, you can call the SF Board of Elections at 415-554-4375 or email sfvote@sfgov.org. And if you're in Alameda County, we'll be sending out soon a voting plan template made by folks at the Center for Independent Living. You can also call Senior and Disability Action at 546-133. Again, that's 415-546-133, or email info@sdaction.org to get any help with checking your voter registration or finding out how to vote. Additionally, there is another candidate forum for Bart Director District 6 on Wednesday, October 12th at 6 p.m. And the link will be provided in the chat. Additionally, there are recordings from nonpartisan Oakland Mayoral Candidates Forum by senior organizations, which was recorded on YouTube and will also be posted on the chat. If you know of any other forums, please also post that in the chat and we can send that out afterwards. And I'll pass it off to Arlene.
Okay, everyone, this has been really very informative and constructive. And we would like to invite everyone that's on the line and your friends, family, neighbors, to join Senior and Disability Action, to become members. You can go to our website at www.sdaction.org to sign up as a member or sign up for our e-newsletter. SDA in the East Bay meets twice a month, and you can email Jessica at sdaction.org to be added to the list. SDA's masking group meets regularly. You can email Raya, RAIA at sdaction.org for details. And please come to SDA's 10th anniversary celebration on Thursday, October the 13th, from 6 to 8:30. We'll be indoors and outdoors at Yerba Buena for the arts and online. And you could go to www.sdaction.org for more details. Hope to see you there. Back to you, Itzel.
Thank you, Arlene. The Center for Independent Living is celebrating our 50th anniversary and we'll be hosting a week of events, starting with the 14th, a Fruitvale Fiesta located at Aguachiles y Tamarino. There will be tacos, Aztec performers, Flocorico, and mariachi. Additionally, between the 19th and 21st, there will be a summit Each day will focus on something different, starting with a independent living day, a community advocacy day, and an employment services day. And we'll close off that Saturday with a block party on October 22nd from 12 to 5 right in front of our Ed Roberts campus between Adeline from Ashby to MLK Junior Way in Berkeley. If you would like to attend these events and want more information or want to attend one of our regular community support meetings, you can find more information on centerforindependent.living.org.
I would like to thank everyone for coming out, whether you're on Zoom, whether you're at a physical location. We just really want to thank you for coming out and participating in this forum. We definitely would like to thank the candidates. We'd like to thank all of the sponsors, and we're so happy that you could come and enjoy this evening and learn more about this really important issue. Thank you so much for attending tonight. We look forward to working with the candidates who win the election, and we would like to meet with you soon after the election to talk about how to work together to improve transit for seniors and people with disabilities.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you and good night. Safe journey.
Thank you. Had a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks for